And we are live on another episode of the People Ask About Web3, where we demystify Web3 topics. Today, we have a really exciting topic and we have a really exciting guest. So we have Ryan, who is the head BD at Metora Games and Ideaverse. And today we are going to be talking about how to make more crypto from play to earn games in Web3. This is a topic that is very requested, especially because one of the first use cases or one of the initial use cases of Web3 together with cryptocurrency is Web3 games. Therefore, it is a great way of bringing on board people into the Web3 community and also making some money in the process. But enough of my introduction. I want to leave the floor to you, Ryan. I want you to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what we are going to be talking all about today. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you, Vice versa. So thank you so much for inviting me. This is Ryan, and I'm the head of business development for Metora Gaming and Ideaverse Studios. So what we're doing, like you say, we are moving forward from traditional mobiles developers into like Web3 so-called GameFi projects. So currently we are establishing our first studio, and we have like two games that are going to launch in the Q4 of this year and Q1 of next year. So which is the Fortune Heroes and the Heart of the Apocalypse. So basically what we are doing is we want to bring in actually our experience and specialists into designing like mobile games and bring in the true entertaining experience to combine with the play and earn models.
I have immediately a question. Just right off the bat, what is the difference between Web2 games and Web3 games? You've said that you guys have specialized and have built Web2 games, and now you are migrating your know-how that you built in building Web2 games to the Web3 environment. Obviously, in Web3, you can earn crypto, but also in Web2, you can earn rewards and points and stuff like that. So what is the fundamental difference that distinguishes Web2 games from Web3 games?
I think that's a very great question to start off this conversation. I'll be very honest, I am still learning the answer of that question on a daily basis, but I can share like what I've already learned during the process. So the first thing will be the marketing logic, which from a Web2 gaming perspective, many occasions we wait until the game is launched, and when it is on the marketplace, a lot of like marketing activities only started when we have the full game launch, and then we do a lot of like ad buyings, we do SEOs, we do our influencer marketings. So the engagement, the entry point of users engagement happening much later. And in Web3 marketings, as all we know that community playing a very important role. So not only that, we are building up the users population in a much early stage, but they hold a very important positions and in a way that directly or indirectly involving in a lot of like decision that used to be made by the studios, saying that we have the chances or the windows to listen to a lot of like player feedbacks along the development stage when we are developing our games, and they will be well involved in say characters, game design, what kind of like incentive or gameplay that we should like put into the products. So that's something that we think that it's amazing part of Web3. And talking about the difference of what is the fundamental difference of like Web2 players or Web3 players. So let's be honest, Web3 it's like a transparent platforms where a lot of like transactions, assets, and tokens are purely transparent, and it allows a mechanism that on top of the ordinary in-game rewards, we can also including like on-chain tokens, which boost the activities of so-called play to earn. So it's human nature when you have such direct play and earn elements on the gaming platforms. So what we have learned so far is if someone really getting involved in like multiple projects in Web3 gaming, so a lot of focusing will be on the speculations of the tokens. Like you say, how to earn more money, how to get like break even as soon as possible, and how to leverage and manipulate and multiply their assets by we invested in the games. So I would say like around like 70 to 80% of the focusing will be on the finance part rather than on the game part as well. It's not the only reason the player's nature. It's also about so-called GameFi is still at a very, very early stage. So in what we call a GameFi 1.0, it's fundamentally it is just a DeFi products that has been packaged into a formation of games. Because a real mobile games and a fully playable games, they take times to develop. So the first to launch on the market will be rather simple to play, straightforward mechanisms, and focusing on the tokens earning and returns. But we are seeing a lot of like main competitors, even from the traditional market, are entering onto this track. So I would say that we are seeing a more balance of the entertainment and the earning balance in within the game. So Ideaverse or Metora Gaming, we share the same visions. We believe that it's not only about like investment finance because that's not a nature of how we designing a game. It's not only for earning but also for the fun. So in Ideaverse, we have a motto play beyond fun. So if another thing is like it has always been in our statement that we want to create and coexist environment that no matter you have like knowledge of blockchains or wallet integrations or on-chain tokens, uh, you can still enjoy the game with the same environment with the so-called Web3 players. So that's our vision and our mission as well. So that's the main difference compared to traditional mobile players or Web2 players, whatever you call it. It's the sensitivity into the earning. I think that's really break a lot of like characters of players from both perspective.
Now, you've said some amazing things. Really, that was some really great insight. Just to kind of sum it up a little bit, you were talking about the differences between Web 2 and 3, and you mentioned a really great point initially that is already with the marketing. So you made a distinction between the marketing for Web 2 and Web 3. That the marketing for Web 3 happens before the game is developed, while the marketing for Web 2 for games happens when the game is already developed. Obviously, the advantages of having a community while the game is developing, you made those pretty clear because they can help, contribute, give their feedback, try it out. Why doesn't this happen also for Web 2?
Mm, I believe is because of the nature of how the community is structured. Because if we can remember the evolutions of overall blockchains, like in 2019, 2021, it has been a great run of all the NFT projects. And all the players or investors, no matter they are crypto or NFT investors, they have already adopted into a community-based projects. So the same will very seamlessly extend into the Web3 projects. So we're seeing a lot of project that is building their community first and doing their product launch later. But that's of course that's not the only reason. We're seeing also there's projects they're showing like sneak peek or trailers. The blockchain technology can help them to do sort of like fundraisings or crowdfunding in an early stage if they got support from the community as well. I think I have nothing against it. It just like it is a tools not only helping the players but also helping some especially young and new developers to get them to where they want to be in terms of like game developments. So the users' engagement, which is very important, not only from our perspective, we think that it is a very important tool and process of building the loyalty because it's like interest group. It's like a group of friends or point of interest that if you join the community early enough and you see the overall development of the products that you did get involved in, we find that from statistics, these are proven to be like a more royalty players when they actually seeing the products they develop that they have actually get involved in. So I think that is a really new model to building up the initial populations of the product.
I agree with you. What you said makes sense. And when the NFT market and the crypto market were doing great, that was a successful approach for many projects. But right now, what I'm seeing in the market, it seems that the same approach is not working anymore. Meaning,
Hmm.
maybe maybe there was a overflow or too many different projects, and there
Hmm.
were they saturated the market, and there were just too many, and right now the market is getting a little bit cleaned up. But what I'm noticing right now is that projects are having a hard time building initially a community,
Hmm.
starting to build a community. Why? Because I think many community members have been burned previously on previous projects that
Hmm.
maybe didn't have had a great idea, had great intentions, but didn't have a solid business background and a solid business uh,
Hmm.
use case on which to build, and on which to, and after kind of selling their NFTs and selling their tokens and being able to raise the funds weren't used in the best way because of the lack of business acumen that was lacking from the team. So right now, I think those projects have been a little bit wiped out, and what is kind of surviving this crypto winter is mostly projects that have business people on it, that know how to run basically a startup or a business. Because I see
Hmm.
NFT projects or these new projects that kind of start as basically a startup, not kind of a project, but a startup that has to have a business model, that has to generate revenues, that has to have a team, that becomes a company at a certain point. And yeah, and that's kind of my take on what you're saying regarding the projects. You said another very important thing that distinguishes Web 2 from Play to Earn from Web 3 Play to Earn, and that is the transparency. Now,
Hmm.
I think I understand why transparency can be important, but uh, would you mind going into a little bit more detail why this point of transparency makes players want to play more, want to earn more, want to be more kind of inside of this environment of Web3 rather than Web2?
Mm. Okay. Thank you for your feedback. And I think that you have made like two comments. The first one is about the market. I want to go a little bit into that direction as
Yes,
well.
sure.
Um, I think that recently we have a lot of like events that really shaking a lot of confidence into not only GameFi or NFT but the crypto market overall. I believe in like statistics, and we can see from the daily transaction volume, and no matter it's like from NFT market in a few of the major platforms or in many GameFi projects, it's still on a decline, both on the overall transaction volume in terms of like uh, values and users. So I believe that that will be the trend for sure and will be ongoing. So basically, if a project is trying to start from scratch and working on a brief ideas and trying to do like community buildings and fundraising to complete what they have to do, what they have to complete in terms of game development, I would say the difficulties will be like way more difficult than it is like 12 to 18 months ago. So in Metora Gaming and Ideaverse, we had been working in the industry, like mobile games. So Metora is the main investors, also of Ideaverse. So basically, it's a semi self-funded projects. We have taken part of our, of course, like revenues from our Web2 products, so to fund our Web3 games. So in that way, we have less pressure in terms of like financing and keeping the project moving forward. And for us, in all our products, we have made commitments to the players and communities that there will be like zero barriers. So ones do not need to purchase any tokens, do not require to purchase any NFTs before they can enter the games to experience them. So we think that's important because it's like asking all the users to purchase a concert tickets without telling them who are the artists. I think it's not the most appropriate way of doing things, at least in our philosophy. So we rather invite them into our shows and let them be entertained. So if they want to turn it into a play and earn model, they can make the decisions of purchasing the NFT and further engage it into the games. So that's how we designing the roadmap of our games. That's point number one. And the second one, can you remind me what is the second point?
The second one was regarding Web3 transparency. So
Mm-hmm,
why do players prefer Web3? You said that one of the main reasons was transparency. So if you can
mm-hmm.
go a little bit more into detail, what is meant by transparency? They can see obviously their tokens, who is earning what, and yeah, that is obviously important. Is there anything else to that?
Mm-hmm. I think like that it's related to the in-game earnings as well. Of course, and some of the Web2 games in a third party or in terms of like in-game items, there will be like separate channels if they can transfer their in-game items or tokens, but that's not official channels. I think like one of the solutions that all the NFT or blockchains or tokens we solve is like an audit, security, and authorized assets in games. So, say for example, if we are going to reward the players with a certain items, they will know exactly how many of those has been produced in game and on chain, totally transparent. So I believe the limit of total reproductive amounts of a certain items will create a actual values. That's only like one of the advantage. And the second advantage, as for example, if we are as the official host to host a tournament of our games, so it will be a much easier entry platform for all the players to enter the tournaments because they can use their digital identity. And then if they eventually win the tournaments, the transfer of all the in-game rewards and tokens will be very straightforward. We don't need to know which country they're from. We don't need to know like how to do wire transfer, what is the shift code of their bank, is there any restrictions. So this reward will be strictly into their wallet, I think, in a snap of time. So I think that in a way, it encourage us to create so-called like official prize pool for a lot of like in-game or community-based event that taking a lot of like good advantage of crypto or blockchain overall to simplify a lot of tasks that used to be very detailed in the era of like Web2.
I wish I was born 10 years in the future so that I can live in a world where Web3 is the norm and just kind of not look back into the past of kind of the all of the time wasted in Web2 and in this kind of closed mentality. That's super interesting, super cool. Just as a reminder, so you said basically it is what is making people more interested also about Web3 games in the fact, in the point of transparency, is the fact that when you issue these tokens and NFTs, they are usually limited, therefore, and transparent, and everybody can see them, and they are also become assets, meaning that if you have an NFT that you can play a certain game, you can sell it and make some money. While if you buy a game like, I don't know, Call of Duty, and you have the CD in your house, yeah, you can go to GameStop and kind of sell it for like 20% of what you paid for it, but that game will never be worth more than what you paid for it. So
Mhm.
even if the game is in high demand and whatever, it's still never going to be more because it's a used game. So it becomes an asset. And you also talked about the part of rewards, which connects me to my next question. And you said something very, very interesting, that these games are like DeFi products, meaning that they're like DeFi products that are packaged and gamified, which is very interesting. Uh, you also mentioned two things, that you guys are building two games. One is coming out in the end of this year, I think, and the other
Mhm.
one is coming out in the beginning of next year, if I'm not wrong. So Q4 and,
Mhm.
and Q1. Would you mind giving the listeners a little bit more information about the games that you guys are going to be releasing, starting with the first one, how they can get into it, and what are the potential rewards for being an early adopter?
Okay. Thank you for the questions. So I will start with the first game we are going to release, which is the Fortune Heroes. So of course, for further details, you can always referring to the website on of the Ideaverse, which the website is already shown on the screen, if I'm not mistaken. So Fortune Heroes, it's not only one game; it's a series of game. We are launching the first one in Q4 this year, which is the Monopoly. So it is like experiment, not for us to entering the market because it is relatively light and leisure games. So it's completed between like two players, maximum four. So on a board game like Monopoly. So within a 15 minutes play, there is like a few conditions. Rather you bankrupt your opponents, or you have collect like a series of assets with the same color. It's a very straightforward games and easy to be adopted, especially in the Southeast Asia market. And it does not require a high population to start the game as well. So it's a leisure game. Why I say it is an experiment is we are from the basis of like a mobile games developers try to integrate the in-game earning elements in this game. So this is our first product going to be launched. So basically, like I say, they can enter the games with a free download when we are launching it on the market. And if they think the gameplay is fun, and if they are confident that they can win these games to turn it into an earning model, they can purchase the NFT on the marketplace, and then the in-game rewards on top of the normal, like say coins in games that can do in-game purchase. They can also earn the on-chain tokens, which of course they can do transaction on a exchange market. So as an early adopters, of course, like for now, we are doing like a membership type of NFT in our community, which is called IDV Club Pass. So it is an NFT we use to recognize our early members who have been supporting us from the very beginnings. So if you are like certified as an OGs or early members of the communities, it will be a free mint. So it will be basically an free NFT to recognize your contribution to the community. So if you are holding this club pass, you will enjoy the in-game benefits, and you can enjoy a extra rate for in-game purchase for all items in in the Ideaverse games. So of course the position is limited, so it is only open for the early members. So this is like one of the game that we are designing to launch in Q4. And I mentioned about also about the tournaments. We find that this board game kind of like mobile games are very easy to be adopt and structured into a tournament. So we are uh, developing a platform that we can gather our own community members and turn it into a more competitive models. So on top of the daily earnings, they can also entering different tournaments that we host, so that they can earn like extra rewards if they are skillful of playing these games. So this is the first game, Fortune Heroes. The second game is like the
Just a,
Hall of.
just a question, because
Mhm,
it is very interesting. Come on, you guys are releasing a new Web 3.2 Web 3 game with a play to earn concept. It is going to be like a Monopoly, 2 to 4 players. Now,
mhm.
my question is: to get started, you are going to need an NFT, and after that, every game, I imagine that you win, you will earn some rewards. Correct? That
Mhm.
is how it's going to work. Then you will take this.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need to have an NFT to start the game, but
Mhm.
the NFT will only affect. Rather, you will be earning the on-chain token when it is launched.
Okay. Okay. So you can play the game for free. However, if you would like to earn tokens or be rewarded for your efforts and for your skills inside of the game, in that case,
Hmm.
you will need the NFT. Uh, so there will be a token that is associated with the NFT, and the more games you win, the more tokens you generate. So it's like a cryptocurrency, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then you can take this cryptocurrency, go to a exchange place and swap it for any other cryptocurrency, and that is how you would make your money.
Yep, correct.
You guys also mentioned that there are other things that you guys are doing to increase the potentials or to give more fun, but also give the ability to players that enjoy the game and that also are willing to earn more. You guys are organizing tournaments and competitions to
Hmm.
reward, I guess, like first prize, second prize, which will be like a prize pool for the tournament. This is
Hmm.
also done in the local cryptocurrency, right, of the project.
Yep.
Okay. How is this tokenomics governed? Meaning, how can it generate how can you generate new crypto, and how can you sustain the generating of new crypto? What is the, because this is kind of uh, most Web3 games are based on that, on kind of, yeah, just generating, but there has to be something that provides value or that provides incentives for the tokens to keep value in time.
Hmm. Yep.
So
I
yeah.
think. Yep. Please finish your question, and then I
My
will
question
reply.
is a little bit, yeah, my question is a little bit unclear because it's not also very clear in my head how the whole concept works. Have you guys given, basically my question is, have you guys given any thought on how to just give a long-term value to the coin? uh yeah, basically long-term value to the coin that is maybe not related to the game, or that is related to the game but it might be tied to a physical asset or anything kind of for the long-term vision.
Okay. Yep. So I understand your question because, like, in a lot of like internal meetings and when we are doing focus group with a lot of like players, we encounter that question a lot actually. So I will answer your question into two sections. So the first one, so our vision and mission is still creating a platform or gaming environment that can coexist like Web 2 and 3, right? But in reality, that we seeing that a lot of project fails because of the over inflations and there is no value reserved to the tokens issues. So in Ideaverse white paper, you can actually refer to it. We have think of how to create a values to the tokens, and we designed it to put like 20% of the in-game top up, which is like one of the main revenues from the Web2 side that um, transfer into the reserve of the Web3 tokens. So there is like a multi-benefits relationship. So the Web2 players, although they are not purchasing the NFT, but if their population grow, the more players in the game, they will create a more cash flow that also benefit the Web3 players. That's point one. So we believe that it's not about like letting the latecomers to play for the first comers incentive, because it has been proven that a lot of projects, once the population growth decline or decrease, the project will enter a debt spiral. So you need to inject the values from other places that to maintain the reserve, like you say. And the second thing is about the tournament. So imagine a game, there's like 100 players. Every players passing the same button will earn one token. So where is the token, the value of the tokens coming from? If everybody doing the same and they get the same rewards, basically this is like double inflation daily. So for the tournaments that I mentioned, it's not fee to entry. So it's only for the skillful and more experienced players. So I'll give you another example. The same 100 players, everyone pay one tokens to enter the tournaments. But ultimately, the total prize pool for the best 10 players will be, say, 90 worth tokens. So the rest will go to, saying, the platform, the organizers, and the community to keep it running for the administrations and keeping the tournament organized. So in that way, for the overall token supply, we do not create any extra tokens on top of nothing to distribute to everyone, but we are rewarding from everyone's entry fee to the most skillful players. I think that we have discussed for this model for a couple of weeks that we think that in that way, the transparency of blockchain also help as well because it create a fair platform to reward to the only skillful players who are devoting more time and efforts into the game. We call it like skill to win. That's the term that how we call it. But we found that it doesn't help with the players or the projects or the developers if you just issuing tokens or currency and just distributing it for no reason because there's no value attached to that. So this is one of the way that we try to avoid what we have already seen happening before.
That is a great answer, meaning that limiting, having a solid business model in Web 2 and using part of that to finance and to support the Web 3 is a great way to start. But however, the other component that you said about burning the token, meaning using the token in different tournaments, different events, and then having a way to control the supply is going to make it always kind of having a specific amount, so always in need. There's not going to be a oversupply of the token, which is great. It's like you said in the beginning of our podcast, we are all still learning the Web3.
Mhm.
So so it's something completely new. It's something that is being built right now. The use cases still have to, the real use cases that are going to be the game changers, they still
Mhm.
have to appear on the market. uh, I want to thank you so much for the insight that you have given us today, Ryan. It has been great. We've dived into play to earn in Web3 like I've never done before and learned some great things. I want to ask you before we conclude, is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners or to mention that we haven't covered in today's podcast?
Mhm. First of all, thank you again for hosting these sections. I think it's always good. I think one of the very important nature of Web3 is about communication and collaborations. It's not only communities to developers, but also developers to developers that create synergy and common values. So I would say that for Ideaverse or Metora game, we share the same visions that although we may move not as quick as a lot of projects, but we really want to polish our products before it is launched and gradually bring experience. We are not thinking of like getting rich or 100 times on the price of the token overnight because everybody knows that it will not be long lasting. So sustainable growth is what we are looking into. And on our social media, especially on our Twitters, we have our forums that is like these sections, but that we have like multiple guests discussing about specific topics of Web3 or Web3 related, how to transfer from Web2 to Web3. It's like a rank to earn model will be working on our Twitter space in bilingual. So it will be like English and we have a Chinese forums. So it will be goes on like week by week. So if you are interested to know more from our perspective as a game developers, our visions and topics, we have been talking with different guests from different backgrounds. Feel free to follow our social media, especially our Twitters, where all the space is happening.
Absolutely. This is, I think you guys are a great project, and I think that what you are building has great foundations. So therefore, I'm really excited to see what you guys are going to come up with, and I'm really excited also to get my hands, hopefully, on one of the NFTs that will allow me to earn some crypto while playing the first games that you guys are going to be releasing, Future Heroes. Awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of the listeners that have tuned in and listened to us today. This has been, again, very exciting. I want to thank you one more time for being here with me and for everybody for listening to this. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next episode.
Thank you. See you. Bye bye.